Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'll play the entirety of the video, and then I'll go back and talk about things that are going on and things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Mercedes Fortune with the Phoenix Police Department Public Affairs Bureau. The information, audio, video, and pictures you're about to see are intended to provide details as we currently understand them of an officer-involved shooting that occurred on July 20th, 2021 at about 7:15 p.m. This video may contain strong language as well as graphic images which could be disturbing to some people. Viewer discretion is advised. Officers from the Mountain View Precinct were dispatched to a domestic violence fight call at an apartment in the area of 30th Street and Roosevelt Street. The female caller told 911 that her husband hit her and he was holding a knife. The dispatcher could hear a child crying in the background. At one point during the almost 15-minute call, the victim stopped speaking to the dispatcher, but stays on the line. Here are portions of that 911 call.
Phoenix 911, where's your emergency?
Hello?
Hi, we need help. 802 North 30th Street. Number
802 North 30th, Center.
Please,
What kind of help do you need?
My husband is hating me and he's really drunk and I don't want other things to happen. He's acting inappropriate in front of the kids and he needs to go.
What's your husband's name?
Miguel Hernandez. He is drinking.
Oh, okay. Are you guys married?
Yes, ma'am.
And your
Stop
phone number
it. You have the
ends at
baby in your
7596?
arm. Put the knife down.
What's he doing with the knife?
He's trying to calm himself. Give me the baby, okay?
What happened?
He's trying to bring the knife.
Ma'am.
I got the baby, please. I'm gonna fuck you.
The first two officers who received the call were told the husband had been drinking and had hit the victim. The suspect was identified by the victim as 31-year-old Miguel Hernandez. Officers arrived at the apartment complex and located the victim standing outside in the parking lot. The victim was crying and visibly upset. While one officer spoke with the victim, the second officer walked toward the apartment. Within seconds, Hernandez abruptly opened the door and advanced toward the officer armed with a knife. The officer told Hernandez to show his hands, but Hernandez did not respond to the command. Hernandez continued toward the officer with the knife, and that is when the officer fired at Hernandez. The body-worn camera of the officer who fired his weapon was not activated. However, his partner's body-worn camera captured the incident. Here is that body-worn camera video.
He has a knife in his hand right now.
Okay, stay.
Ooh, my kids are all in there.
How many kids?
5.
5? Stay.
After the shooting, the officer walked the victim back to her apartment and verified that the children were safe. Officers saw minor injuries on the victim, which according to the victim were caused by Hernandez. Additional officers arrived, and because the suspect's hands could not be seen, the officers did not immediately approach him. Officers told the suspect to show them his hands, and after seeing that he had no other weapons, they approached him and began medical aid. Hernandez was then transported to a nearby hospital, where he was later pronounced deceased. The knife that Hernandez had armed himself with was found on the walkway where the shooting occurred. The officer involved in the shooting is assigned to the Mountain View Precinct Patrol Division and has more than 3 years of service. This incident is subject of both an internal and a criminal investigation, which will be reviewed by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Conclusions about whether the actions of the officers are consistent with department policy and the law will not be made until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete.
This video was intended to inform and educate the public about a critical incident in our community. You can learn about the Phoenix Police Department's transparency policy on our website.
All right, drop the volume and get into it. So this starts off as a domestic dispute call. And when it comes to domestic disputes, those are some of the most dangerous types of incidents that law enforcement can be involved in. They're extremely emotional charged events, like very, very, very emotionally charged events where people's ability to reason and think logically and act logically are robbed by their emotions in the moment. So it's almost like they're under the effect of a drug in a way, and people they don't think clearly during these incidents, and they can be extremely dangerous for law enforcement. And in fact, for law enforcement, as far as things that, they can harm and or kill officers, car accidents is a pretty big one. It's not getting in the gunfights with bad guys that causes the most injuries and deaths. Just like what you see in the movies, it's car wrecks. There's a lot that die from heart attacks. And then when it comes to dealing with violent individuals, it's not like active shooter events that these police respond to and get, harmed and killed at, or, just a bunch of bank robberies and stuff like that. A lot of things that when they're dealing with people that they can get injured and killed at are these domestic dispute calls. Certainly doesn't help when one of the people is intoxicated with alcohol, because then on top of them being extremely emotional, they're intoxicated. So there's two factors involved there that has a significant impact on their ability to think and act rationally. So the woman is out here. So they get out. Let me back it up a little bit further. So boom, they pull up, get out. She's out front here.
He has a knife in his hand right now.
Okay, stay.
My kids are all in there.
So she's in the back, and she's, crying about him and the knife, and they are walking towards this apartment. Now, the call states that it's a man with a knife. This guy has a weapon out, right? Now, we don't see what type of pre-gaming is done before they arrive on scene. I don't know how long their actual body cameras were on. Even if they were on in the vehicle, I highly doubt that they were on for very long. They probably activated them as they were turning into the parking lot. So any type of conversations that they would have had inside the vehicle, talking about who's going to do what, wouldn't have been captured. And of course, there's no supporting documentation to indicate whether or not they had any conversations about who was going to do what once they arrived on scene. It doesn't fully
How many
appear
kids? 5.
that they gamed it.
Stay.
He pulls out his lethal weapon, and then she pulls out her lethal weapon. If they had prepared for this contact, I would have thought that, a good visual indication to show that would have been that one of them would have had a less lethal weapon out. With not seeing that being shown, again, who knows? They could have planned it, but she could have been the one designated for it, but because she was turned talking to the woman, the door opened while she was turned talking, and it happened too quick for her to get the plan of getting the taser out, and this guy came out very quickly. Who knows what other less lethal options they had? They had an SUV, so it's anyone's guess what was in the SUV. Could they have had a less lethal shotgun in there? Could they have had a 40 millimeter launcher in there? Could they have had a large MK9 OC riot can in there? Could they have had a pepper ball gun in there? Those are good questions. I don't have the answers to them. If they did have one of those less lethal options, I think it would have been a good idea for one of them to get that out, especially knowing they're going to a call where there's a person with a knife and it's the domestic. If they had a pepper ball gun, a beanbag gun, 40 millimeter launcher, one of them could have had that out. Let's say it was him or her. At this point, doesn't fully matter. They could have had that out, and when this guy came out the door, they could have immediately engaged him with the less lethal option.
How many kids?
5.
5? Okay.
No!
5? Okay.
So he comes out aggressively. He's got the knife in his hand down here. This officer has lethal cover. He has no choice but to use deadly physical force against this guy who is coming at him with a deadly physical weapon. He fires about 4 rounds.
After the shooting, the officer walked the victim back to her apartment and verified that the children were safe.
I don't think that I would have walked her back into the apartment where there were weapons, and then she could have totally changed her mindset from being poor old victim to pissed off woman who is now mad that the police killed her husband. And you would be surprised about how people react in domestic assaults. There's been a lot of times where the woman who has had the crap beaten out of her by her husband and is bleeding goes from being crying, sobbing victim to crazy, raging bitch when the police go to put handcuffs on the man, and the woman just doesn't take that very well. She goes from being victim to being pissed off woman who sees her lover being arrested by the police and then goes and attacks the police. So I would not have brought her back inside the house. I think that they should have just kind of pushed her towards the vehicle, sort of encouraged her to get into the back of the car, and then close the door. That way she's stuck in the back of the car and she can't go anywhere. She can go berserko crazy in that back seat all she wants. She's not going to go anywhere and get to inside where there's weapons. And then, the kids, if there was a back door to this apartment, then obviously taking the kids out that back door would be a better option than to walk them out the front door and them see the dude laying outside bleeding.
Officers saw minor injuries
who
on the
knows
victim, which
what
according
the
to the
layout of this
victim's hands
apartment's
could
like.
not be
I don't
seen.
know what it's
The
like.
officers did not immediately approach him. Officers told the suspect to show them his hands, and after seeing that he had no other weapons, they approached him and began medical aid. Hernandez was then transported to a nearby hospital, where he was later pronounced deceased. The knife that Hernandez had armed himself with was found on the walkway where the shooting occurred. The officer involved in the shooting is assigned to the Mountain View Precinct Patrol Division and has more than 3 years of service. This incident is subject of both an internal and a criminal investigation.
So this is a pretty cut and dry incident. Pretty cut and dry. Could have things been done a little bit differently in the beginning? Sure, everything could have been done differently. Would it have made a significant change in the events? Who knows? That's that's the $1 million question with these what if scenarios. But I do think that one of them designating theirself as the less lethal person could have maybe had a change in this. I don't see pepper spray being utilized as much as I think it should be in these kind of scenarios. The MK9 cans, they're there. They exist. Why not use them? I mean, you could stand at a safe distance with an MK9 can and deliver a stream pretty good distance and soak the person like you're playing with water guns, a Super Soaker 5000. Coat them from head to toe. Now, obviously, coating them head to toe is kind of wasting the OC, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. I think that OC cans are not utilized as much as they could be, and I think that even an MK9 can in this scenario, given, of course, the wind was optimal, which it's hard to tell in this video if the wind would have been good enough to utilize that or not. For all we know, the wind could have been blowing at them enough to where that would have negated the use of pepper spray. But very well could have just immediately started soaking his ass as soon as he opened that door and significantly impede his ability to see what the hell he's doing. Now, it could have resulted in him retreating back into the house. That's a possibility. And then slamming that door. And now you're having to go through an OC cloud to get to him where he's inside this house with these little kids. So, some ideas sound good, but then when you talk about them and you think about them, then there's some negative aspects to them as well. But as far as the shooting goes itself, he had to do what he had to do. He got immediate results. All he had to do was fire 4 rounds to stop the threat, and that's all it took. We see that looks like one round kind of goes into the arm area, shoulder area, possibly. We see his hand clutching there. I'm assuming maybe the first 2 went dead center mass, and then as he was firing, recoil brought him up into the left a little bit, possibly. Hard to say. As far as the other rounds go, we can't see where the rounds go because they put the little blur box on there, and we can't see anything past that point. That's it for this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.